Welcome to our latest Around the Campfire episode. Thank you for joining us. I'm Jamie Sonley, Marketing Director at Northwoods, and today I'm joined by Patrick Beezer, Northwoods CEO and founder. Patrick is not only the face of Northwoods and a website usability expert, but he also is an avid runner. And he didn't just found Northwoods, but he also helped to found the Milwaukee Runners Group because Northwoods is based in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. So Patrick, I always start with a little personal anecdote about our guests. And so I'd love to hear a little bit about your latest running accomplishment or any running tips you would like to share with our audience.
Yeah, right. Running tips, no running tips. But
Okay.
we'll talk about I was in a half marathon 2 days ago. And so it was
Oh,
I've
nice.
done it about maybe 10 times for the same one in the Milwaukee area, the Estabrook Half at Strider. And so it was fun because it was the first time in 10 years that I ran it where I consciously said, I don't give a damn about my time.
Ah,
I just enjoyed the run. So
that's
it
awesome.
was a hot day. And I think about a quarter of the way through, I thought, why are you trying to win, your age group again? And it's like, just relax. And so I found some people I knew and we kind of chit-chatted and it was much more enjoyable.
Oh, that's awesome. So why did you decide that that particular race was going to be the one where you didn't care about your time?
Because I say it every single time I was at the beginning.
Uh,
Okay, are you going to you're going for it today? People would ask, and I'd say, yeah, no. And then I would.
okay.
And then so somehow the competitive spirit fires right in the middle of the race.
Yeah.
And this time, no. I said I resisted and I fought it really hard. And it was a mental challenge to be able to adjust to not caring about your time.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can imagine. Because you've been running for a long, long time. So,
Yeah, probably about 40 years or so.
oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I give you so much credit. Yeah. If I
Got
could
good
do a
knees,
mile, that'd be good.
good knees, good hips. Not everybody has them. So if you do your
No.
sport, it's good for you. If you can swim, climb,
Yeah.
bike, hike, something,
Do something, right?
stay
Yeah.
active. Yeah.
Nice. Awesome. All right. Well, I'm glad you had a chance to just kind of enjoy instead of going after your beating your time. So
Right.
that's great. That's great. Well, we are actually here to talk about complex websites, but I do have one more question for you before we dive in.
Sure.
And our signature snack here at Northwoods is s'mores, and
Yes.
we love them. So one of the first questions I always ask is, what kind of chocolate do you prefer in your s'mores? And we get wildly different answers from everybody. So it's very interesting.
Yeah. So I'm a big fan of Tabal chocolate. I have to do a product placement plug. This is Tabal
Oh,
chocolate.
look at
And
you.
so I got a little thing over there. Am I doing it right? No.
You are.
And
Yeah, that's
so
great.
this is my brother Dan is and he that brand and he
Nice.
sources the cocoa beans from Costa Rica and he finds farmers that support and he sources their beans and he's a bean to bar chocolatier
Ooh,
hosted right here in Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
oh my gosh. Lucky for us. He's right
Yes.
here. Yeah. That's amazing. All right. Well, that's great. That's
Got our product
great.
placement done.
I like it.
Dan owes
Nice
me three
job.
chocolate bars now.
Yes, he does. He should send them over to the office so we can all partake. All right. All right. Well, we will dive into complex websites. We thought this would be a great topic just to share some advice with marketers and website managers who are dealing with a lot of data and information and what ends up being often unwieldy websites that don't necessarily offer the best potential user experience. And so I think a good place to start is by defining, what constitutes a complex website. I know you've talked a lot about the 4 F's and the 4 V's. Can you explain to our viewers what you would consider to be a complex website?
Yeah, I came up with a couple little acronyms on it. The 4 F's are anytime you have a site that stuff is difficult to find because there's such a large volume. There's a fatigue, second F, of too many clicks to be able to find what you're looking for. A very common one is failure to find. So you haven't got good titles, good metadata on your site because there's so much stuff. And so people can't find it, and there's a failure in the search exit. And then finally, when the search results come back, the final F is called famine, which is the inability, a poor description, a poor meta description, where you end up, it found the right stuff, but the description is so poor, it has maintained it in a readable, usable way that you can't find it. So not enough information to make a decision. And so these are the failures of complex websites, often caused by the large volume that you have. There's just too much stuff over there.
That makes sense. And you mentioned the four V's too. Can you talk a little bit about those?
Yeah, well, just because everything comes in fours, I guess. We have the volume is more of a defining factor. So these are rather than the experiences, a little bit more on the volume. So you have gigabytes or terabytes of information.
Mm,
Often, again, in spreadsheets, another one of the pieces is that volume is coming from lots of disparate sources. So it's coming from databases, ERP systems, accounting systems, spreadsheets, text files kept in the marketing department, InDesign files that somebody is using to illustrate everything. All of that stuff amounts to a massive amount of volume. It becomes difficult to maintain and to manage. The variety of stuff that comes in there following on is that you have tables, text files, images, documents, videos, PDFs, and then specialty type files that require special browser plugins to make them all work. That is a challenge, the variety on top of the volume. Then my little v, that's a little abstract, is veracity. And that is because there's so many errors often in those files, omissions, inconsistent formatting of the data, unreliable data, incomplete data feed that comes into the website that fails as it's coming in there, not in the same order it was last time, indexed poorly. So all of that becomes at some point in time overwhelming, and people give up, and or they just end up with a lousy experience. Their homepage looks beautiful and the first couple landing pages look beautiful, but as soon as you kind of dig inside there, it's the site, because of the complexity of the volume and the variety of the stuff, it kind of falls apart with the veracity. And then the last V is velocity, which is how often this stuff is changing. So you have to deal with everything we just mentioned, the volume and the variety and the veracity, and now it's changing every day. You're getting a new set of information, especially as the organization gets larger or the amount of information comes in is to grow. So that makes it a challenge.
Yeah,
Pause there. That's enough.
most definitely. Yeah, that's enough.
Yeah.
Are there certain industries that we here at Northwoods tend to see, all that type of complexity with the four F's and four V's more than others?
Yeah, I think it can happen more widely in people so let's just name some of the different industries. So manufacturing, certainly it's going to happen there. If you are building something and it's more than trivial, more than a commodity, you often have to have spec sheets and illustrations and graphics and technical descriptions that appeal to certain audiences and not to others. You're not sure what keywords to use. So manufacturing suffers from this. Healthcare can suffer from it too, because of the wide variety of services that people want to offer. The professions like legal can suffer from a large volume of information. Oftentimes there's many words in the legal profession where that suffers a little bit more, but they don't have the complexity of product descriptions that other industries would suffer from. But we can deal with a different sort of complexity in the legals. Education, same thing. You have many departments, government and education have lots of departments, lots of everybody in every department is putting out information that they want to make available to the public, and that's often challenging to maintain. So in all those cases, the volume and veracity of information can be a factor that's going to cause this to be a complex website.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense.
Yeah.
So I know one of the number one things that marketers or people who are managing those complex type websites should really try to ensure is that they're providing the best possible user experience. And with all of what you just described, that's a tall challenge for a lot of people. And I know something that we do really well here at Northwoods. But how do people know if they're providing a great user experience given the complexity of their site?
Yeah, that you don't know it intuitively. You can have a sense or get a third-party evaluation, but the best way to know it is the number of complaints and or looking at empirical data, how often people are searching, how deep into the site they get from the search results. So you can look at the analytics on a website and get all of the relevant clues that would tell you that the user experience isn't good. How long are people staying on a page before they give up? How often are they going up to the search? When they go to the search, you can have overlays that watch the mouse movement on the page. Even eyeball studies are a little bit more complex, but you can actually infer eyeballs from a mouse movement on a page. The mouse tends to track with the eyes. So if you watch the JavaScript overlays that you can put onto a website to capture the mouse movements, when people are navigating to the site, you can see them struggling to find, especially if they type in a keyword in a search box, And let me make a point that on the more complex the website, the more likely it is people are going to use the search.
Mm,
So if you have a sense that your site is complex, it is more important that you get that search box closer to the top, more obvious. And as it delivers up results, being able to break those results into facets or segments so that relevant types of information, I want product information, I want people information, I want resource information, that those are broken into little separate tabs that are clear and obvious. Then you watch the mouse movements as how people are navigating on that page, and you will see when they're struggling and they're not clicking on the right thing. And then you know you have clues that something isn't working. Of course, user studies are fantastic. So if you can,
right.
they're usually not that expensive. A panel, a focus group type of thing. There's services that do it. Northwoods provides a service where we can assemble a group of correctly minded people, more technical, more less technical, and them to accomplish certain tasks on the website. Watch what they do. Do they use the search? Do they use the
Right.
homepage? What are they clicking on? And if you encourage them to talk out loud, you will discover, even with 5 people, you will discover all sorts of wonderful 3 out of 5 people. When you said, go find a part number, went immediately up to the search bar. It's like, oh, okay, that's interesting. We don't have a bar in a prominent spot. Maybe we should fix that. So
Right.
I could go on and on. There's lots of different ways that you can
Yeah.
infer and look at data that would tell you whether a site is working or not.
No, that's a really good overview of different types of ways to know that. So going back to product placement, we'll plug our Titan CMS
Yeah,
product a little bit here too. But one of the ways that Titan CMS really helps people with usability is through Smart Search, which is a really unique feature of Titan. So I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about how
sure.
Smart Search helps with on-site search results and kind of helping people navigate
Yeah.
through a site.
The, the best content management systems have something like Smart Search. Smart Search is one of the pioneers. We've been doing this for a long time and continue to innovate and improve how this technology functions. But we look at the keywords that people are typing in, and we can hotwire those keywords to go to specific targeted landing pages. This is done without artificial intelligence. So we're looking at implementing that in the next revision, a little bit more AI into the evolution of Smart Search. But on a typical website, you're going to find, even on complex websites, you're going to find very common patterns that narrow quickly. There's going to be 200 to 300 keywords that are typed in consistently. If you have part numbers, you will see a part number, thousands of part numbers that people are typing in looking for. And that immediately tells you, when you can look at the search logs, look at the volume of certain types of keywords, to say if people are looking for a part number, we can identify that anything that has a 6-digit number in it, if that's your part number structure, we know what it is. You can use a little bit of intelligence to figure out that's a part number and then take them immediately to the part number searching page.
Mm,
You can also bring up specific results. If somebody's looking for the calendar of events, they might type in calendar events, seminars, workshops. They might type in a keyword that ties to, I know what you're looking for, and I know why you came to our website for that. And I can take you specifically to a calendar page and move those up higher onto the search priority list so that the results aren't reliant on some search engine's index and whatever algorithm it's using. You
right.
are intercepting prominent keywords in the 80-20 rule. 80% of the time, you're going to get these 200 to 300 keywords and intercept those and hand tailor the results of what they're going to see and look at that. And then you can also in Smart Search look to see which ones people have clicked on. So we got the ones on there that everybody's clicking on the third result for this particular keyword. Okay. You
Mm,
can also in Smart Search put in what we call negative keywords, things that you don't sell. Perhaps your competitor or some other service has a part number that is not your part number, but it's a competitor's part number. They came to your website, they typed in a competitor's part number. Voila. Hey, let's tell them the equivalent over here. Now, normally that wouldn't show up
right.
because you don't have that index. It's not in the metadata or keywords for your content. But if you can intercept that and look at Smart Search, you can look at the logs, see competitor part numbers, do something about it.
That's
So
really smart. I like the
yeah,
name Smart Search. That makes complete sense. Yes.
we studied that for years to come up with that.
I'm
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
Yeah, right. Well, going back to user experience just a little bit, would you say that it's undertaking user experience research and doing those types of studies that you mentioned and looking at your analytics and really understanding UX is the number one thing that site managers should be doing to ensure that they're providing that best possible experience for their site visitors when it comes to those complex
Well,
sites? Or are there
I'm,
other
I'm going to
things you would recommend?
meet you halfway. I don't know if it's the number one, but it certainly would be in the top five.
Okay.
Looking at the user experience is very, very important. In fact, we say that if you are in a content management search looking for the replacement for whatever you're unhappy with now, that the number one thing you should do is draw out the user experience that you would like your new CMS to handle. And that requires user research, audience research, looking and diving into your analytics. You don't have to spend a ton of time on there, but know what is it that your audience is looking for, and spending time talking to people, getting that feedback, doing some focus groups, looking at your search results, looking at your analytics, getting that data, then passing that on to a good UX designer, somebody who's going to put some prototypes or wireframes together and have a reasonable, clickable user experience that illustrates how you want the new site to behave. And then with that information in hand, you are able to give the UX design team or the CMS vendor enough relevant information to say, yes, we can do this, and here's how much it will cost, versus just saying, we need a new website and solve all these problems.
Right.
So
Yeah.
to take, yes, the user research and looking at the user experience is a critical part of an ongoing website. And it's also important if you're making a new CMS solution.
That's very good advice for people. I know you've said in the past, show your potential vendor, don't tell them, show
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
So being able to craft that user experience and develop those prototypes and wireframes that you can put in front of vendors and say, this is exactly what we want to have happen is huge.
We also have ongoing, at Northwoods, we have ongoing research. So every 6 months, once a year, get your website in front of a focus group and have them test it. Go through the things that you wish people would accomplish. Might be 10, 15 things. Give them a little script and say, go and search for service.
Right.
Go and search for a research article. That's why people come to your website. There's also people that come to just browse, to learn about you, and give them a task, give your focus group a task to learn about Northwoods and tell me what you've learned in 3 minutes. And so go click on this website and tell me what they do, what your general perceptions are, the quality of their service, whether you trust them or not. You ask the focus groups for that. And then as they click through stuff, they talk out loud. Oh, this graphic looks cheesy. Oh, this image is really good. And, or I like this title, this blog. You're going to get all that sort of feedback that's going to inform how you can improve your website and content.
Great. So switching gears just a little bit to talk about integrations from an API perspective. So when you have a complex site, you mentioned data's coming in from potentially a lot of different sources and lots of data that you have to kind of figure out how to manage and bring together effectively. What are some things that website managers should be thinking through when they're dealing with multiple kind of API integrations or just lots of disparate data sources?
Well, you should be aware that it's not simple to build those integrations, that all the things I talked about, veracity and volume and quality, are going to be factors. You should be thinking about, I guess, the team that's going to put it together and the amount of development time that's going to go into building this, that this might be something that's beyond your internal team to get done well with a good credibility. And so this is a place where building integrations to suck information in, cleanse it, refactor it if needed. Sometimes the data, you can intercept bad data and fix it as it's coming into the site. That is something that is best done by a vendor or somebody who has software development skills that has done this before. If you're going in to get a kidney replacement, you want a doctor that's done it a few times before.
Yeah.
And here, this is a case where you're going to be pulling this important data into your site. This is going to be the lifeblood of what makes a complex website work. Want somebody and a team that knows how to do this and can ensure that it's going to be working correctly. And if it fails, which it will on occasion, the feed's just not there. It's nothing to do with your content management system or the vendor, but the data wasn't where it's supposed to be. You need to have air checking and alerts that tell you that something didn't go right, and get an email, notification, text message saying the feed didn't work. Heads up. All of your net present value information on your financial website is incorrect. It's a day old. This is going to be a problem. You need to have an alert that's happening.
Right. That makes sense. So you're touching on this a little bit, but the role of taxonomy and how taxonomy helps to kind of put information into a more structured approach. How would you advise folks around this idea of taxonomy and building that
Yeah, tech,
taxonomy out or multiple taxonomies depending on the data?
yeah. Well, taxonomy, especially in complex websites, is in the top 5 things that is most difficult to do and to get right. It's a lot of thinking, a lot of organizing, coming up with a cataloging system with the correct, we call them attributes. So if I'll give you an easy taxonomy, states. So if you're going to tag in, where your dealer is located in,
Mm.
one of the 50 states, that's an easy one because now I know there's 50 attributes. They're well known. Everybody understands it. But a more complex taxonomy might be size. And so you have a variety of products that come in anything from 2 millimeters up to 2 feet. And there's a whole bunch of attributes in between there. Well, you can't reasonably list 3,000 different sizes inside there. So how do you think about that? How do you organize and come up with a tagging system that allows users to search for the size of the product that they need without having an overwhelming number of choices online? Because a good taxonomy in general is going to have 20 to 40 attributes max. The fewer, the better. Too many, and it becomes overwhelming and it's hard to make a decision. And so narrowing that down and saying, all right, do we put a size range perhaps? Maybe we do 1 millimeter to 10 millimeters and 10 to 20. That's an option that you could have a taxonomy. But now you can put discrete values onto your products. And then the taxonomy itself gives the ability to find within a range inside there. So a bunch of different ways to do it. So getting the
Okay.
taxonomy right is the art of a librarian who has got a master's degree in thinking about organizing and cataloging, because it has to consider user
Yeah.
experience, has to consider volume, has to consider the feedback you might have gotten from focus groups on how people are searching for stuff, what sort of factors they're looking for. All of these things become really critical in getting a taxonomy done well. And enough stuff to be able to filter. I'll give you a last example, but the resource library is an excellent place where taxonomy is really important. For our own internal intranet we have at Northwoods, being able to tag the thousands of documents that we have internally by the author, by client name, by a date that it was created, and then a meta description title. So a taxonomy can also include keywords. So a well-named title inside there. Type of document can be auto tagged. Is this a PDF? Is it a document file? Is it a PowerPoint, Excel file? That can be applied automatically when you upload it. The date can be applied automatically. Hopefully the author who is entering it can be applied automatically. But then you're going to need additional information about which client was this for. And they're not going to be able to figure it out instantly by the document upload. So that I can find, and then the type of document. Is this a proposal? Is this a presentation? Is this a prototype? Is it a specification? Tagging that so that later on, when somebody's looking for it, they have a whole bunch of different strategies they can use to find that document. And if you have done a good job with your taxonomy, finding, my first F, as what makes complex websites become so much easier. So tying it all together. And you can have large volumes, my first V, of information that are findable if you have a good taxonomy.
Yeah, for sure. So it sounds like a lot of organizations would benefit from working with a firm like ours who has experience with taxonomy, because it
I would think
sounds
so.
very overwhelming to kind of come up with the right taxonomy for
Yeah.
your
Even
particular
have it
needs.
double checked, have somebody else take a look. And I can't walk in 5 minutes and tell you your taxonomy is good or not. I need to spend a
Right.
little bit of time understanding your business, understanding the research that you've done, the users, et cetera. Oftentimes we hear, oh, we talked to the salespeople and they said this is what they want. The salespeople are a contributing factor for your website, but typically if you let the salespeople design the website, you're going to too often go down wrong paths that are not going to be what the end users want. Salespeople are motivated by,
Sure.
let's not give them any information, just make them call me. Yeah, that's not a good strategy. It's counterintuitive to them. They
Right.
don't want to give all the information away. They want people to call them. Well, they're not going to call unless they get enough information. So, and
Exactly.
salespeople don't necessarily understand that.
Yeah, that's a catch 22 for sure.
Yeah.
So that's a good segue into talking a little bit about the team and the different kind of disciplines or areas of expertise that are really required to build and manage a complex website. And I know
Yeah.
you've in particular talked a lot about this in the past and the different, the different areas of expertise that are desperately needed to come together to make this website the best possible experience it can be for the end user. Are
Yeah.
there certain disciplines that you would say are an absolute must that a team has to have, whether it's internal or through an external partner, in order to make those complex sites functional?
Well, great question. If you were running a debate, this would be called a softball question.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you want a good, oftentimes people, let me tell you what the fallacy is, that I can hire a web designer and that because of the word design, the implication is they can design everything. But in fact, there's many subdisciplines inside of web design. So in our world, a web designer is somebody who can take care of the graphic visualization of the site, the user experience of the site, perhaps usability specialists, but you need people that are information architects. It's not always the same person as the web designer. You need somebody who can be a content strategist or a digital strategist. That's often not the designer. The strategist is more of an analytical
Right.
type person, and they can go and look at the data, look at focus groups, analyze that, come up with patterns, look at keywords. That's not something that makes designers get excited. They don't wake up in the morning and say, "How can I look at more data?" Um,
Right.
they want to look at the colors and the palettes and then the logos and the imagery. You want to have people that can write. That is not the designer. I haven't met a designer yet who's good at writing. So a journalist is a different discipline. You don't have to get a journalist, even if you can,
Right.
that's great. But somebody that knows how to not bury the lead, to put the right words in front of it. And even it's just keyword loading, which is so important for SEO, getting the right keywords put together when you're writing the content at the top of the paragraph and the good title. All of those things are fine arts that a journalist has an ear for, an eye for, to be able to know what's going on. And then, of course, you have front end and back end developers that you're going to need. That's a specific skill to be able to do the integration. The back end developers are going to help you with the imports of your complex data from the volume and all the errors. So a good back end developer knows how to deal with all of that. Who's really good at SEO, somebody who's good at analytics, who's good at making sure the server stays up and you get all the right
Yeah.
patches from your operating system. So we can go
Yeah.
on and on. I've identified probably 22 discrete disciplines. Sometimes they overlap in the same person, very often not. And
Mm.
it's nice when you have a team of people. It's almost like a beehive. You need some
Yeah.
worker bees and some drones and some queens, and you need one of everything, or that hive's not going to work.
Right.
Every one of the bees in a beehive has an important role, and they have to be able to support and sustain each other. And if everybody does that, you're going to be doing. So finding a vendor, typically
Hmm.
most clients don't have all of these disciplines on staff.
Right.
And typically CEOs, presidents of companies know what it is that they need in order to do it. So they say, let's hire a web designer, and then the web designer they trust. And that's an unfortunate
Yeah.
misstep. You don't know what you don't know, but it takes a lot of specialties. I wouldn't, Jamie, I don't think we'd be good at building rocket ships. I don't think Northwoods would be good at that.
Come on,
Yeah,
that's next on our list,
it is.
Patrick.
But I don't think we're going to get there because there's just so much stuff. I don't even know what
Yeah.
disciplines of engineering you would need.
Yeah. Right.
You need, what do you need?
Right.
Mechanical engineers, electrical, I don't even know. You probably need all of
I
them.
don't know either.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
so if somebody said, let's build a rocket ship, which is often what, with a complex website, people are trying to build a small rocket ship. And you need to have people that know what they're doing if you want that thing to actually get off the ground and fly.
Absolutely. That is so critical, which is a great ending point. Unless there's anything else that you would like to add about complex websites that we didn't already touch on.
You have hit the complexity at all levels here, I think. So
Okay.
I'm
All
good.
right.
Yeah.
I got all my softball questions out for you. So,
Yeah.
all right. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Patrick, for joining me to
You bet.
discuss our complex websites approach and what marketers and website managers need to consider. And
This is useful.
even just, yeah, and even just how to know if you have a complex website, because that's kind of the number one thing. Do I have a complex website? And then how to manage it effectively. So thank you so much for sharing your advice and insights. And thanks to everyone for joining us. Keep an eye out for our next Around the Campfire episode, which will be coming in a few weeks. And you can find all of our previous episodes on our YouTube channel or on our website at nwsdigital.com/around the campfire. So thanks again, and we'll see you around the campfire again very soon.